All right, gang, we're back for week number 2 on fixing all kinds of dog issues, big, small, whatever it may be. So, I'm going to start off by saying right off the bat, if you haven't watched and practiced video number 1 and put it into work for at least a week, you could really do all this stuff for longer than that. If you have not done video 1 and put in the time and energy working on the different motivators with your dog and controlling them, then you have to go back and do step 1. You can't jump into this process anywhere you'd like. You got to start at the beginning. All right, just like anything, if you want to have a good end result, you have to have a strong foundation to build on. Okay, so for this second video, this second week, we are going to talk about 2 things that work very well together and they kind of intermingle. We're going to jump right in. We're going to keep all this as short and concise as possible so you have plenty of time to train the dog. Okay, so building off the fact that we have now kind of controlled all the motivators of the dog, and we have things like a dog that's going to actually be excited when you bring their toy out, or they're hungry when it's time to eat. That gives you some power within the dog, some relevance to the dog. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is talk about how to make that relevance even more successful and more effective. And the theme of this first thing is called management by restriction. All right, so if you want to write that down, it's a huge topic that we use a lot. It's a great principle of dog training. Management by restriction means that we restrict the dog's access to particular situations in an attempt to manage their behavior. For example, if the dog is not ready to be next to the front door when somebody knocks and comes in, then we don't give the dog access to the front door until they're ready for that. So we manage the dog's behavior by restricting their access to certain stimulations, certain events. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is just building a solid bond with the dog, and also it's like bonding / attention. Okay, you can't just start yelling at a dog at the back of its head and expect them to listen to you. You need to have some attention from the dog in order to eventually teach them to do something. All right, so management by restriction and bonding / attention is what we're going to cover today. So, starting with the management by restriction, this is utilizing the different tools or the different structures or environments around the house, as well as just thinking ahead a little bit about what's going on in your life and making sure you're not putting your dog in situations that they're not going to be successful. So, starting with some tools like using a crate or a pen or a laundry room or an area that the dog is behind a baby gate, and restricting some of the access to these things like the front windows. If the dog always runs and barks at the front windows, the first step is to manage that so that they don't have access to go bark at the front windows. I think that a lot of times we use crates well. A lot of people use them for house training, which is highly recommended. We use them for a while. I think that most of the time people don't realize that you can actually use them for much more than just overnight or when you leave the house. The dog should be spending time in a crate or in a pen or kind of away from all the action, even into their adult life, and especially while you're going through the training process. So a good example of this is, I'd rather spend a really exciting and fun 40 minutes or half an hour with my dog where I'm engaged with the dog and enjoying it, and then I'll put them up in a pen or in their room or somewhere where they can rest, so that now I can focus on something else and they get to kind of take a break and relax, as opposed to just having them out all the time and kind of spending some time engaging with them, talking to them. But that ends up more like reacting to what the dog's already doing, and then you stop them or yell at them or jump in and try and play or whatever. So I kind of like to gear it so that the dog, when the dog comes out or is ready to engage, that we get to spend that quality time together. All right, and these work together. The management by restriction and the bonding and attention work together very well, because if you're able to control your environment a little bit, like maybe close the door to the kitchen, or put up a baby gate so that the dog's going to be kind of in this particular area that is ideally very low level distraction at this phase. There's no reason to be expecting the dog to perform behaviors under any type of distractions or stress or pressures from the outside world at this point. So manage that environment, and now we're going to start working on like the bonding and gaining the dog's attention for longer periods of time. Okay, so using a crate, using a room, you can using a leash, and tying the dog up to something behind it. It's called a back tie. It's a good way to manage a dog's behavior. And then having good expectations. Like, you can't just jump in and expect the dog to be super calm when somebody comes up and raps on the doorbell. They just magically aren't going to do that. It's something you have to teach them on how you want them to respond. All right, so jumping into the bonding discussion, this is a part that I see a lot of room for improvement for most people. Like, kind of like going back to withholding some of that motivators, the personal affection or the handler affection and the praise. So using that tool that we have now in place where we can actually motivate the dog, instead of just giving away the affection just kind of like nonchalantly, like touching a dog whenever, like when they walk by you touch them, or when they come over and like nuzzle you, you touch them. We're gonna be a little more strategic than that. All right, and the same goes with the feeding ritual now. Okay, we should have already developed some food motivation in the dog, get them comfortable eating out of our hand. We're going to take that one step further. When you're bonding with your dog, it should be a time to take a deep breath and actually just relax a little bit. I really prefer to do this sitting down. Okay, so I'll find a comfy chair, a couch, a stool, whatever it is, somewhere where I can kind of relax a little bit and have that motivational tool or that reward object. If I'm going to use a toy or something, I'll have that with me, all right, in my pockets, in a treat pouch, in a bowl next to me. Just have it around. So now we have a dog who's a little bit motivated by what you've got, and you've got yourself in a nice, comfortable position. You're actually going to start feeding the dog, and we'll just use food for this example because this is something that everybody can do. I know it across the board, and there's not many things in dog training we can say that about, but food is one of those things. At some point, it will become a motivator for all animals. Okay, so we're going to be sitting nice and relaxed, and we're going to be doling out the dog's food a little bit at a time, kind of right from our midsection. Okay, if you're sitting down, you can kind of put your hand like between your knees and let the dog come over and eat a little bit. All right, and you don't have to throw it all at him at the same time. We're actually going to start spacing it out a little bit. So the dog should be extremely comfortable coming over, kind of nuzzling in, like right between your knees, and you give the dog a little food. All right, as this goes well, as they're eating a little bit, you can pet them a little bit. All right, give a little bit of that handler praise. You can talk to them. You can maybe say like yes, or I don't say good dog a ton. I'll get into that a little bit later when we start like how to communicate verbally to the dog. That'll be a whole nother video. So relaxed, positive motivation or reward objects on your person, and giving the dog a little bit of food, petting him a little bit, talking to him. And I'm going to quickly introduce something called the random reward system. This is a good way to start building attention in the dog. If we related this to something like playing like gambling or playing like a slot machine, all right, we want the dog to come over and they should enjoy being there and they get a little bit. Every now and then, it's good for the dog to win or get like a jackpot. So if they come over and they're giving you great eye contact or they're sticking around really well and really having fun, Boom. Give them maybe a handful of food instead of just a couple kibbles. Okay, so that jackpot reward, just like playing the slot machine, will keep the dog interested in coming back and playing again, which is really what we want. We want the dog to be comfortable, almost pushing us. Say, hey, let's keep doing this game. I like this. When I'm here, I get food. Now, if you have a particular dog that likes a tennis ball or a rope toy, same thing. You can have it behind your back, pull it out, let the dog bite it a little bit, play with them a little bit, and then put the toy back. You know, you can also combine these things as well. And a good handler will be able to utilize all different forms of motivation as fluidly as the dog is interested. So maybe a good thing is they play a little tug, get to bite the toy, and then you bring some food out, and they spit the toy out and they eat the food. You say, good. Give them a little pet. That would be using all three of those types of motivation to create an excellent relationship opportunity for you and the dog. All right. One big thing that it's important to talk about at this point is these sessions should be 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, pretty short. Okay, you don't have to sit there and do this for a long time. And what's really nice is that what you'll start to realize is the dog will start to anticipate what's going on. Like when you sit down in that chair, the dog's gonna run over and say, oh, is this go time? All right, are we doing our thing? And then you say, yeah, here you go, buddy. All right, so nice, short, fun sessions. This should all be very, kind of, relaxing and fun. I'm telling you, one of the things that I see people struggle with is just being able to take the time to have 10 or 15 minutes to sit down and spend with their dog. But we're making changes here, right? So it's also very good for us as people to be able to sit down and do that. And the dog can then kind of join in and help with that. Gives you a reason to put your cell phone in another room, close the door off from work and not from your wife, of course. Yeah. Keep the wife and kids around. All right, so management by restriction is where we're using the tools and the environment around us to manage the dog's behaviors by restricting their access to certain things. So if you have a particular problem with your dog, look at how you can make that problem go away by not letting the dog have access to those scenarios or those objects or the kitchen if the dog's counter surfing. Close them off from the kitchen. Problem solved for now. We will go back and teach the dog how to properly be in these environments once our communication system is opened up. As far as the bonding and attention, use those different tools, those different motivators that we have now to actually have a good time bonding with the dog, creating some relationship where the dog comes over and is right there with you and get something positive. Change it up a little bit, whether you give them a big handful or just little pieces, and really work on building that bond 10 to 15 minutes a day. All right, guys, have fun, go in order, and keep those dog journals going. Happy dog training. We'll see you soon.